Afternoon, everyone. I know it's 2:00. Do we now have a quorum?
Yeah, I just want to double check that we
Okay.
can hear her. Alice, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you great.
Perfect, okay. We do
Thanks so much.
So I'm just gonna leave.
Awesome. Great. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Call to order this meeting of the Agricultural Advisory Committee meeting of Thursday, February 8th, 2024. Can we have a motion to adopt the agenda, please? McGrath, do we have a seconder? Spencer, all in favor? And opposed, motion's carried. And adoption of the minutes. How about we switch the tag team here? Spencer, you want to move it? It's like, oh, there's Alex. Mix it up a little bit. All in favor? Motion's carried, thank you. First item, introduced by staff, please, 6.1. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, my apologies. 5.1, we have a delegation.
I suppose I'm delegated.
Yeah, if you want to just come up here.
Yeah.
And when you speak, if you could direct to, this is where the mic is. So if you
Okay.
direct your comments this
So
direction.
Where is the mic?
Yeah, and
Can you
then
just
the
speak
people
for me?
online can hear you.
Okay.
Thanks. Welcome.
I would like to introduce Michelle Marines van Ekelen, is project operation manager of Van Ekelen Enterprises. And we have Dave
Wait a minute.
Young, who is the water manager for the DDI department. And I am Peter Ruys, director of Van Ekelen Enterprises. And first off, we are not here to criticize the agricultural committee, but we notice when we peruse the past minutes that they have a lot on their plate, but not many DDI issues were discussed. Perhaps you saw the Fraser Valley Current last Tuesday, where our letter to Patricia Driesen about DDI issues were printed. And this letter was forwarded to Jamie Austin, Director of Utilities, and who suggested this delegation. Outside the documents I forwarded to you, and you must have received from the city clerk, and I trust you have studied those. A couple of new and recent items came up. A new 3-year contract for ditch cleaning in Summers Prairie and Metzger Prairie came up, and a rookie contractor operator picked this up. The result was very poor workmanship and clashing with DFO guidelines. No checking of this work by the DDI department occurred, and several ditches were not cleaned within the allowed window of cleaning. It would be very interesting to compare the amount spent on this new contractor to the one before, who did clean all the ditches, and including the 11 kilometers of city ditches cleaned by Van Ekelen Enterprises. Another item, new item that came up, farmers from the B section, that is not in the lake bottom, on a Sunday they poked a big pipe underneath Campbell Road for a pump station, and following that they installed 3 reels for irrigation. It was reported, but nothing was done about it. That's I believe I get 10 minutes. Again, perhaps on the documents I sent to you, you might have questions. But what we're asking here is from the Agriculture Committee is to recommend to Council to reinstate the Summers Prairie DDI Committee as an independent committee reporting to Council. Okay, so if there are any questions.
Just before we move on, for clarity, I'm going to have Mr. Joseph just outline a few things in terms of the committee structure, why we change things.
Sure, thank you, Chair. So City Council right now, they view their advisory committees as policy-based. Okay, none of our committees have the ability to direct staff to do anything, which is maybe a change from the past. but we certainly encourage any resident who has any concern to bring those directly to staff. So if anything, you have a direct line now to our operations department, our GM is at the end of the table, as well as our GM of regional utilities and engineering trade here as well. So if you have those concerns, you can go straight there. Right now, the council has not indicated any desire to create any more committees or to reinstate any past committees because they're happy with how our committee system is working. But I encourage you, certainly, if you have concerns, to bring those directly to staff.
Just want to clarify a few things too, like by some of the things that you'd outlined in your letter are not anything the city has control over, they're provincial or federal. The other thing I would say is that by not having this committee, it doesn't eliminate your ability to raise your concerns with staff. In fact, we've kind of eliminated the middleman or woman. You can still speak to staff anytime, call them up, email, raise your concerns with them at any time. So having a committee doesn't direct, they make recommendations to council, but they don't direct staff actions. We just don't work that way. I don't know if the mayor wanted to add anything more?
Yeah, so some of your concerns are very valid concerns, but I would encourage you to work with staff. If we had a committee isn't going to correct some of that or address some of that. Staff, it's operational, and we talk about policy here. So if it's an operational, there is a direct line to staff, and you need to, and if you're not happy with that answer, you move up the chain of command until it gets to the city manager. If it's a policy issue that we have to change here, then we change it at the council table. So I think, I'm hearing your concerns. This is the first time I'm hearing some of those concerns. But again, I would encourage you to continue to work with staff. That's a much quicker and more responsive way to deal with some of these operational challenges.
If I may answer that, I think DDI committee was stopped about 10 years ago, and I have been a member of that committee, and it ran quite smoothly. We think that the DDI department need a guiding hand. A lot of issues were snowed under, not taken care of, and the DDI department is not functioning. And that's why we come here to have the DDI reinstated, because the ag committee doesn't have time for those. We had several farmers in the DDI committee, and they know exactly what is occurring there. And at the moment, that is not occurring. And this is already for the last 10 years that things are not running well.
Okay, but that's an operational, and the committee isn't going to necessarily change that. So I would encourage you to reach out to my office, and we can have that discussion. But I think leaving it to creating another committee is another layer. So have you been working with staff on some of these
Yes,
concerns?
in the last
Have you
10
gone
years
up the
we
chain?
have. And that's why I'm bringing this forward. We are concerned as farmers in the Sumas Prairie, the things that are not done. And that's why, and before, in my own experience, things were done. And that's the main reason.
I don't want to give you the impression that I or we are dismissing your concerns, your very valid concerns, as the mayor said, in any way. We definitely appreciate that. But it's just the method as to how they're addressed, I guess, is the issue, I guess. And in reinstating a committee, they would not have the ability to direct staff. Anyway, things are changed a little bit. So I don't want to get into like a back and forth debate.
I know.
Sorry, did you wish
Yeah,
to?
through the chair,
comment?
Mr. Rose, I've been back in DDI now for about a year. And as I met with you on your property the other day, these operational issues that you mentioned, I will, and I've given you my cell number, and a lot of farmers have my cell number. I am invested into DDI and all the operations department. I will personally look at all these issues. Some of them I've emailed back to you, but I think the connection is me. I've been there. I was there before. I'm happy to take on call. I'm available 24/7. So I will be your connection to bringing back whatever level of service that we had before and working with my staff, making sure they provide the same level of service that you were experiencing back in 10 years ago. So I think I replied back to your email with in terms of contracts and stuff. Those are contractual obligations with the municipality are very well laid out. Unfortunately, we can't go around it. When that contract was signed, they went through an open and transparent process, and those people won it fair and square. There's not much we can do there, but if there's ditches are not being cleaned, I certainly am very concerned about it. If you have my cell number, I'm available to you 24/7. I'm available to a lot of the farmers. I will make sure those ditches are clean and items that are brought forward to my attention, I will make sure they're personally looked after. You know, even during the storm event that we had, there were a number of farmers that called me on the weekend. I was there on Saturday, Sunday, I met with them and then followed up with them once the ditches were dry. So I have no problem doing it. I will be your connection to the Diking and Drainage Department now.
Thank you, I
I'm
appreciate that.
very pleased that Pradeep is back because we worked very well together
We did, yes.
10 years ago and before that in the era of Frank Wright. But perhaps you see that we got fed up. Yeah, things were not done, things were not followed up, a lot of scores. And in that respect, Mayor, we have a lot more experience than you do in these issues since we are directly involved and it is our livelihood. Yeah, so.
So if I may, just.
Please, yes.
So through the chair, at the last meeting, we talked about a number of things. I intend to open that channel with you and a bunch of other farmers and reestablish that connection with me. So if there's things that are changing, and also reestablish the connection with staff if it's missing. And we intend to look at and make sure we're looking after things that are coming to our attention. So you have my words on it, so.
Yeah, and you know, as you said, you do have a lot of experience here and we respect that and we very much appreciate it. So we're actually happy when you bring these concerns to the attention of our staff and our city because we can't be eyes everywhere all the time. So just want to make sure that you know that you are respected and appreciated. And I thank you for bringing this to our attention. I didn't allow anyone from the committee to say anything. Did anyone wish to? No? We're good?
Question as to what was the reason that got changed 10 years ago?
Mr. Johnson?
There's a reorganization of committees. I wasn't here then. There was a reorganization of committees, and as I said, council was moving more towards more policy-based in their advisory as opposed to being more directive. That's a very common thing as cities grow up and they become bigger.
And part of it too is, you know, a new community charter that the province created that governs, you know, cities as to what we should and should be looking at. And as he's mentioned, councils are more supposed to look at policies, setting policy, and staff are the ones that carry that out. So,
Is there any other mechanisms, like the current system is basically complaint driven to the Diking and Drainage staff? And then is there any mechanisms that could be put in place that would be more proactive on so that the Diking and Drainage staff are having seeing how things are going on an ongoing basis from residents?
speak to that.
Certainly, that's a very good question through the chair. So I'll talk a little bit historically and then come back to this. So 10 years ago, when I used to run Diking and Drainage, I had key farmers that I had connections with, and I called them. I regularly went and checked with them. And back in the day, Yellow Barn was there, and I would go out and meet with them. So I think what happened is as people changed, new people came in, maybe that got missed. So I know that their staff members are currently working with some farmers. Perhaps I need to retweet that and proactively have them communicate with those farmers so they're hearing from them, what are the things that are not working, what are the things that are working, and make sure our plans are tweaked to meet the needs of our farmers. So I think there's a certain amount of work that I need to do to change how staff is communicating with the farmers and proactively here. I think you have a very good point. We were doing that, perhaps that's been not done. I'm not 100% sure how much they've been doing it. When Peter called me a few weeks ago, I went and met with him, and I heard a number of things. And those are things that I intend to implement and make changes to, so we can better work with and better communicate with our customers, farmers.
Okay.
I might comment. I'm not sure I would go so far as to reinstate a dike and drainage committee. I have past experience on it. But I think that for us as a committee to be kept in the loop on what is happening and what the concerns of residents are would definitely be beneficial. And also what, like if Pardeep could give us an update on occasion about what staff is doing about some of the concerns. Because I've had farmers approach me as well, asking or bringing up concerns. And yeah, a lot of them I'm not really able to answer what staff is doing about it or even always direct them in the right direction. So if I were to be more informed, or if we were to be more informed, we'd be better able to advise concerned residents as to what they could do about it. And there are some overarching concerns in the prairies as well that I think we should probably discuss as a committee. There's stormwater runoff. The last flood event, my ditches were running backwards for 24 hours. My farm was literally a reservoir. And thankfully the Nooksack didn't breach in a major way. But when the water is running backwards up the ditches and then the Nooksack's running down the ditches, it creates a pretty big problem. So some of those sorts of issues, I think if we were to discuss as a committee, we'd be better able to inform other residents, other farmers.
Thanks, Matt. He was taking notes furiously, so appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you, appreciate that, yeah. All right.
Okay.
Appreciate
you.
your delegation, thank you. Appreciate your time. Thanks for coming.
I just wanted
Oh,
Yeah,
yes, please, go ahead.
Thank
Mary.
you for bringing these things to our attention, because as you can see, our staff are really wanting the customer service is very important. So please keep us informed if you're not happy, because that's how we can make sure that roadblock gets
I
cleaned up.
hope that we can listen to, because we have been bringing it to the attention to mayor and council already for years. And the first thing we get from city clerk and from you, talk to staff. It didn't help. So you can probably appreciate it that we are a bit apprehensive. Yeah? Thank you.
I understand, but I think we have a commitment that
Yeah.
he's on it.
And perhaps
Things
they
are gonna
need a bigger budget and better people.
And through the chair, if that's needed, I will make sure it goes through the council. I'll communicate that.
Yeah. And we will be in touch.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay.
Thank you.
You want to say
Can I
something?
just real quickly?
Sure, you're part
My
of the
name is Dave.
delegation.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. I'm the irrigation contractor for Smith's Prairie. I'm in my 24th year, so I have an idea what's happening. Within the last 3 years, we've had guys drill under roads on a Sunday. We've had guys dig up a road and put a pipe in on a Sunday, and all to just get water. And it's funny how it coincides with, we're having hotter times. I mean, we can't help that. We're getting less water in September. But guys are just starting to do stuff by themselves. And for me, my part of the delegation is really to make the city aware that this is going to go wild west on us, because if this continues, these guys, they're just doing whatever they want. It's not the city's fault, but I think that it could get out of hand. So I just kind of wanted to, let you guys know. And Pardeep, I mean, I've worked well with Pardeep before too. So, but that, we gotta be careful for this, because these guys are doing stuff that's like, and not only that, but I'm sure they're going to the coffee shop going, hey, guess what I did? And I got away with it. And not only that, but they're pumping water into irrigation districts where they don't pay tax. So they're basically getting free water. There's one farmer there, has 3 guns going, 1,200 gallons per minute, and he doesn't pay a cent of tax. You know what I mean? So anyways, that was my.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah. Did you wish to say anything as well? You're good? Okay, thank you.
Okay,
I'm
thank
just
you.
gonna say a quick comment. When you see these situations, let the staff know. You have my number. Call me if you don't get a response. We'll make sure we send out bylaw staff.
I actually have been, I have told Dennis, I work well with Dennis Livingston, and he, you know, he goes, I'm a contractor, so, but he goes up the chain, so whatever happens or doesn't happen, it has been, you know, I have told him, so.
Oh, good,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, next item, please, 6.1.
Next item is item 6.1, which is an ALC non-adhering residential use application for 440 number 3 road. Prior to discussion with the committee, planner Anne Marie will give a brief introduction.
Thank you. Oh, wait, is this working? Ah, there we go. This is a non-adhering residential use application to permit the conversion of a second story of an existing structure to temporary farm worker housing. The subject property is located at 440 number 3 road. The subject property is a hooked parcel that is located on number 3 road east of the number 3 interchange with highway number 1. The subject property is approximately 10 hectares, 25 acres, and within the ALR. The OCP land use designation is agriculture 2. It is zoned agricultural 2 zone, and the soils are number 4 sand and silt. The subject property, on the subject property, there is a principal dwelling, a full-time farm worker residence, a temporary farm worker housing, farm product processing structure, and a farm retail sales structure. The applicant currently houses up to 10 seasonal employees in the existing temporary farm worker housing. The proposal is to house an additional 15 to 18 seasonal workers for a total of 25 to 28 seasonal employees. The applicant is proposing to convert the second story of the existing farm retail sales structure to a temporary farm worker housing. This is the building that would be converted, and this is an image of what it is today. The farm operation is a total of approximately 162 hectares, of which 94% of the farm operation is located outside of the city of Abbotsford. Only the subject property is located within the city of Abbotsford. Council's agricultural areas policy states that when reviewing requests for temporary farm worker housing, they consider whether the demand for the proposed temporary farm worker housing is driven by farm activities within the city of Abbotsford. This policy also indicates that support for additional housing be in the form of prefabricated buildings on temporary foundations. In the letter of intent, the applicant has indicated that the driving force for the additional seasonal workers is in part to assist on the farm in the product processing facility and farm retail sales. The facility has been expanded over time, and the city has no record of building permits for the expansions. The existing temporary farm worker housing has also been expanded, and the city has no record of building permits for the expansion. Staff have also identified an encroachment by the applicant's farm operation into city-owned lands adjacent to the Sumas Canal of equipment storage and roadways. The zoning bylaw would support a total of 300 square meters of total floor area for the temporary farm worker housing and the conversion of only one permanent structure for this use. The proposal is to retain the existing 133 square meter floor area of temporary farm worker housing and add an additional 222 meters squared of floor area to be located in the second structure. This would total a 355 square meters of total floor area for the temporary farm worker housing and within 2 permanent structures. The applicant had submitted the same proposal previously, which was reviewed by AAC and Council in 2022 before the completion of AgriFresh. Although the AAC supported the proposal, Council resolved to not forward the application to the ALC and deny the proposal as it did not comply with the zoning bylaw. The committee and council will now have to consider whether or not the driving force for the additional housing is from the farm operation located entirely within the city of Abbotsford as per council's agricultural areas policy. Also, whether or not there is support for additional housing located in more than one permanent structure rather than temporary structures on non-permanent foundation, as per this council's agricultural areas policy. Since the proposal is for a total floor area greater than permitted by the zoning bylaw based on the size of the parcel and in more than one permanent structure, it does not comply with the zoning bylaw. At this time, I ask the committee to resolve to make a recommendation to council that council forward the application to the ALC with support as presented, or forward the application to the ALC with support, with changes, or forward the application to the ALC with no comments, or finally deny and not forward the application to the ALC. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant here?
Yes,
Do you want
please.
to speak to it?
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Brian Gadet, and I'm joined here today by the owner of the farm, Dave. We really appreciate your time. We are in receipt of the report prepared by Anne Marie. We've reviewed it, and we find it to be very thorough, and as you just witnessed, she's done an excellent job of presenting it. Some of what I have planned on saying will be somewhat repetitious to what she had said, so I will try to go fast to respect your time. Dave and his family farming operation is all about agriculture. Dave's farm produces thousands of pounds of cabbage, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, garlic, strawberries, sweet corn, raspberries, blueberries, peas, and beans every year. He also grows plants in his nursery. They sell their products from a farmer's market located on the farm, and they also supply BC Fresh vegetables with product that Dave will pack, grade, cool, and ship from this farm location. The farm operation is made up of close to 400 acres of farmland on 17 different titles. 2 of the farms Dave and his family own. 15 are leased, 16 are in Chilliwack, and 1 in Abbotsford. Dave employs 40 full-time and seasonal workers. He's a member of the federal government SAW program. He has a legal obligation to supply housing. As Anne Marie pointed out, 8 to 10 foreign employees are currently housed on site in a freestanding 133 square meter city-approved seasonal dwelling. We propose to continue the use of that facility and finish the second floor of the farmer's market to house another 15 to 18, as Anne Marie has pointed out and is in the report. This would give Dave the ability of housing between 23 to 28 workers on his farm. Our rationale for your support is relatively straightforward. He's part of the SAW program. He needs to supply housing. We know what it's like to find housing in Abbotsford. It's not easy. The proposal has the support of MOA. That's in your report. We are very pleased with the comments from MOA, especially the fact that we meet their guidelines. The report has also listed out many advantages for the additional housing. I won't go through them. I am sure you will agree that given the location of the proposed dwelling above the farmer's market that is already in place, that the location not only works very well for the farm, but is an excellent use of farm land. Not 1 square foot of additional farm land will be used if this proposal goes ahead. Given that the proposed housing will be above an existing building and has no need for any additional agricultural land, this application should be relatively easy to support. But as Anne Marie has pointed out, there's some inconsistencies with our proposal and the city zoning bylaw. The bylaw asks for 1 building and for it to be on a temporary foundation. We understand that. There is a suggestion, but it's not part of the bylaw. There is a difference. The guideline is different than what's actually in the bylaw. You need to, I'm sure you understand that. the suggestion in the guideline, in the policy says that they only recognize firms that are located in the city. Okay, that's part of a policy, that's not part of the bylaw. MOA and ALC do not take this into consideration. The good news is the committee has the ability to either take it into consideration or be like MOA and ALC and not. The question for you is, does this application benefit Dave's firm and agriculture in general? The answer is yes, it does. Dave needs the employees. He needs to find housing for them. And he has an on-site solution that does not impact the land. Now, the committee's made up primarily of farmers, so you know it's not practical to ask Dave to go build housing, permanent or temporary, on leased land. The owner of the land is probably not going to allow it, and it's just not a good use of time and money. It's harder to obviously monitor those employees if they're in Chilliwack, but the more importantly is that Number 3 Road Farm is the main farm headquarters. This is where Dave lives, his farm office, where he processes his products, where he has his farm market, where he stores his farm equipment and also houses some of the existing farm workers, as pointed out. Now, I'm sure there's some members of this committee who were here a couple of years ago who are saying, yes, Anne-Marie has told us this was back before. This was in the past. This sounds like a familiar application. You're right. It was before you in virtually an identical fashion about 2 years ago and was supported by this committee, as you were told earlier. Staff did not support the application because it would be a second seasonal dwelling, and the zoning bylaw only allows one. And in addition, it would be on a permanent foundation. City policy is for these dwellings to be on a temporary foundation. Now, it is only just recently I stood in front of this committee and you supported an application for a second seasonal dwelling on a farm, both on a permanent foundation in 2 separate buildings. Council agreed with your recommendation, by the way, and so did ALC on December 12th of last year. They gave approval. So why did we resubmit this application? That's the $1 million question. Well, I don't like to admit when I'm wrong, okay? But I have to in this case. I just didn't do a good enough job, in my opinion, explaining to you and to staff and to council how important this location is and how it is the driving force behind this operation, and therefore the need for housing. All of Dave's employees, at some point in time during their workday, come back to this farm to continue their work. It's a 25-acre farm where he does all his processing of all the products that he grows in all the other farms. Cleaning, packing, grading, loading the product onto trucks for delivery, and I'm sure a variety of other things that as a non-farmer, I don't know. It's a location of his farm machinery, equipment, he's got his supplies, his farm office, his direct farm market, and over 20 acres of field crops. And as I mentioned, houses some of his employees. My point is, even though most of the land is outside of the city, which ALC and MOA do not take into consideration, the city does. This is where all the activity takes place in Abbotsford. All the employees work and they need to live. In closing, remember a couple of things. The house that Dave lives in, the principal dwelling, is approved. The full-time employee house is approved. The existing small seasonal worker house, all approved by council. The processing building is an outright use in the zoning bylaw. Anne-Marie is absolutely correct. The farmer needs to get up to date on building permits. There's no question about that. And he also needs to move his equipment off of the city property and away from the Sumas Canal setback. This is underway as we speak. We don't believe it impacts this decision. Obviously, if it gets approved, it would be conditional upon, in my opinion, it should be conditional upon him taking care of those issues. Dave's involved in agriculture 100%. The benefits to this proposal are substantial, not only to the family, but also agriculture. It makes good sense when considering the best use of farmland, and we encourage this committee to recommend council supports this application. And for those of you who are here for the last time we presented, I finished off by saying, tongue-in-cheek, that Dave would be happy to answer your questions. He will, but he won't be happy. He does not like to speak publicly. Thank you. but he
Thank
is
you.
here and he will stand up and answer your question.
Thank you, Mr. Gadet. Are there any questions of the committee? Can we have the people online back so we can see? Thank you. Hey, any questions or comments?
Only comment I have, I'd be supportive of the application. Concern would be the statement that they want to use the existing septic field for 18 employees, which is unlikely to have the capacity. That's about 4,000 liters a day. It's something that can be addressed and still with the support of the application.
Maybe staff could make note of that when this report goes to council. Have a look into that, please.
I would second that motion.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak?
Just 1 second, we don't actually have a motion yet, or unless you're.
I make the motion that.
I was assuming.
It's
He
support
said
with
he
that
was in
comment.
favor, I was assuming that was a
So
motion.
so it's with changes.
With that?
So you're supporting the application with changes?
Just a comment.
I think, yeah, I think he was making a motion to support the application,
Just a comment.
but just a suggestion for staff to address that issue.
It
or
does,
look
it
into that one
does
particular
say
issue.
in here, in the applicant's proposal, that that the applicant will have to confirm with Fraser Health Authority. So it is in there. Just
Okay. Just got that right? Okay. Any other comments or questions? All in favor of the motion? Anyone opposed? None motion's carried. Thank you. Next item, please.
All right, item 6.2 and 6.3 have been removed from this agenda, and the committee should expect those to return in March. So we're moving on to item 6.4, which is an ALC boundary realignment subdivision for 2 properties on Boundary Road. I have Assistant Planner Mr. Wilding who will do an introduction.
Yes, so the city received an application for a boundary realignment within the ALR involving 2 parcels, 4291 and 4351 Boundary Road. The proposal is to realign the boundaries to increase 4291 boundary from 7.27 hectares to 9.29 hectares, and to decrease 4352 boundary from 4.04 hectares to 2 hectares. And so the subject properties are located in Sumas Prairie on the eastern border of the city with Chilliwack. The subject properties are located within the ALR on the west side of Boundary Road. The OCP land use is agriculture 2 lowlands, and the zoning is agriculture A2, agricultural zone 2. The soil capability is 4, sand and silt. And this is the lot configuration for the boundary realignment. So the lines in black are what's current, and the lines in red are what is proposed. All right, the recommendations made by this committee will form part of the report to council. And at this time, I ask the committee to resolve to make a recommendation to council that council for the application to the ALC with support as presented, or for the application to the ALC with support with changes, for the application to the ALC with no comments, or deny and not forward the application to the ALC. And Dwayne would like to say anything? All right. The applicant, Dwayne, is here in case there are any questions from.
You don't wish to speak?
I don't have much to add.
Okay, great, thank you.
You got a question?
Okay. Any comments or questions from the committee?
I guess one question would be, on the proposed boundary realignment, you're cutting a blueberry field in half. Like, on the map, you would retain some ownership of the blueberry field, and you'd sell off 2/3
There's no
of it.
blueberry field cut.
Okay, well, the land in the back, is there anything planted in there right now? Or
It's vegetables.
vegetable, okay. And it's being proposed to sell to the neighbor
So we would just
who
take
has
over.
blueberries, or,
He has blueberries already.
okay, okay. Why are you picking that point to divide it? Is there a minimum lot size you're,
I would like to eventually start chicken farming. So the
okay,
minimum amount of size you need is 5 acres.
okay.
So
I was looking at.
Okay, anyone else, comments or questions? I can, oh, here we go. No? Is anyone prepared to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to support it.
Okay,
Realize it's a realignment of assets. The chicken farm doesn't need 10 acres on it. And I think it would secure the long-term viability of the blueberry farm next door. So for that reason, I would support it.
thank you, Matt. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Spencer. Any other comments?
Can I have a question? Sorry, Chair.
Yeah, go ahead, Randy.
Has the option been put out there to lease that parcel of land or a portion of this land? Why are we so quick to, portion this off and sell it?
Because chicken farming is very.
Sorry, I'm not sure if he can hear you. If you could just kind of direct your comments through here.
It is leased out right now. We lease out 7 acres and to get into chicken farming, that's expensive. So that's like the main reason we're trying to sell off the back 5 acres.
Fair enough. Just felt it was a question to be asked. Thank you.
With that in mind, have you already secured quota or looked into it?
My dad, he's a farmer right now, so down the line.
So you just moving it to a different location, is that the idea?
Well, he would be able to get started with that opportunity.
Yeah. Well, good for you.
Yeah. That's
This
the
is
plan
what you need
anyways.
to do first,
Yeah.
is what you're saying.
It would help me financially to be able to take the next step.
All right, any other questions or comments before we vote? No, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Alex, I wasn't sure, was your hand in favor or opposed? It kind of went up.
Right, it was a slow hand.
Okay, so you're in favor. All right, thank you. Motion's carried. Next item, please.
Next item is item 6.5. It is an ALC boundary realignment subdivision application on Township Line Road. I have Anne Marie back to do a brief presentation on this item.
Thank you. This is a boundary realignment between two properties to create two equal-sized parcels. The subject properties are located at 29846 and 29872 Township Line Road. The subject properties are located east of the intersection of Ross Road and Township Line Road. The subject properties are approximately 2 hectares, 5 acres, and 13 hectares, 33 acres, and both are within the ALR. The OCP land use designation is Agriculture 1 Uplands, and they are both zoned Agricultural 1 zone. Soils are 9 till and some 4 sand and silt. The applicants are proposing to realign the boundary between the two parcels to create two same-sized parcels of approximately 7.9 hectares each. If the boundary realignment is permitted, then the owners would construct new principal dwellings within the permitted maximum floor areas on each of the parcels and convert the existing dwellings to accessory farm dwelling units. The agricultural uses on the subject properties are growing hay and alfalfa, which the applicants state in their letter of intent will continue and may include other agricultural uses in the future. There is a water course that is located entirely on one of the subject parcels, but would be located on both parcels if the boundary realignment is approved. The parcels were created by subdivision around 1971 before the enactment of the ALR. The city's approving officer reviewed the proposal and determined that, in their opinion, a subdivision would not enhance farming on the land or permit better use of the structures used for farming, so it must be considered by the ALC. The zoning bylaw would permit the following on each of the properties without requiring a boundary realignment: a single detached dwelling to a maximum of 500 square meters, a secondary suite to a maximum of 100 square meters within the principal's dwelling, and an accessory farm dwelling unit to a maximum of 90 square meters. At this time, I ask the committee to resolve to make a recommendation to council that council forward the application to the ALC with support as presented, forward the application to the ALC with support with changes, forward the application to the ALC with no comments, or deny and not forward the application to the ALC. Thank you.
Thank you. Doesn't look like the applicant.
Yes,
The applicant, there you are. Sorry, you were hiding until I moved my head. Did you wish to speak to this?
No, just if there's any questions, Anne Marie's done a wonderful job.
Okay, thank you. All right. Discussion from the committee?
Actually, I do.
Oh, sure, go
Just
ahead.
to understand, it is a family owned property, and the two brothers are going to build their dream homes. So they're long-term residences.
Thank you. All right. Discussion from the committee. No questions? Is anyone prepared to make a motion? Okay, we need something.
Let's take the lead on this one.
What's that?
So who wants to take the lead on this one? To some extent. Oh, Randy, you're it.
Well, yeah, no, I was gonna let you go, Matt.
Oh, Randy, go for it.
Okay, well, to that end, I would move to support this as proposed.
Thank you, Randy. Do we have a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Brad. Any other comments or questions?
I guess my concern is somewhat, for the same reason I supported the last application, I'm a little bit hesitant on this one, in that we're taking I think for myself, the goal is to get a bigger parcel of land that's more farmable and not chop them up into smaller pieces. And this is taking a large and a small and making them both a little bit useless. So, yeah, I guess that's my only concern.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to draw your attention to the comments of the Ministry of Agriculture, which are basically saying the same thing, but in a bit longer format and based on some studies, is that larger parcels are better than smaller parcels. And the more if you want to keep this really vibrant agriculture community going in Abbotsford, you have to retain the larger parcels. And if you don't, then over time, agriculture becomes less and less viable. And it is much harder to find your options on smaller parcels are much more limited than they are on larger parcels. So in the end, what you get is sort of a bucolic, but not productive country estate type situation, which is not going to drive the economy of Abbotsford. So that's a very serious consideration, and we've sort of said it using like there's been studies on subdivision like this, and I don't know, it's just not a good situation to subdivide larger parcels or to lose your larger parcels.
Yeah, that point was kind of drove home when there was a meeting with the Ministry of Agriculture and chairs and staff from agricultural advisory committees throughout the province. And that was a recurring theme that they kept bringing up. They're concerned about the affordability. You know, if a farm is handed down from family to family, it's a little more affordable, but it's still a struggle. But if you have to buy a farm and have that mortgage and all the costs associated with maintaining that farm, it's very difficult. They are very concerned about the I'm not this specific. It's in general. I'm not saying specifically to this application. So I'm not. Still kind of on the fence on this one. I'm not sure how I feel yet. I'll wait for the staff report to come to council, but just affirming that that is a valid concern.
Well, it's the size, sorry, just.
Yeah,
The
please, go
size-
ahead.
The size of parcel matters. And having large parcels and maintaining them matters really a lot more than what you realize.
Yeah.
Like when you're doing it one at a time, you don't think about it, right? But this is sort of a death by 1,000 cuts. Your options on the last one was on 20 acre, right? To make a 20 acre blueberry farm versus a 5. So that 5 acre parcel, yeah, very few options for making that a viable farm. And cutting the larger parcel down on this piece, will forever make it fewer options for keeping it viable.
Thank you. Brad?
I'd say on this one, it's almost the shape that seems more concerning than the acreage. I'd say that it's probably, on that, just if you look at pure acreage, it makes them both more viable, or makes the smaller one more viable to make it bigger, because it's not like it's going from 1 acre to 2 acres or something like that. It's actually going, it's pretty substantial. And if you look at the surrounding properties, there's farms that are actively farming, looks like poultry, on farms that are, or on parcels that are even smaller than what's proposed. But it's a little on the skinny side. It's like skinny and long.
Yeah, there's gonna be building limitations on that for sure. Accessibility issues. And yeah, what you gain on one parcel, you lose on the other. By shrinking one parcel, is the gain from making one parcel bigger gonna offset the one being smaller?
And you're sharing stewardship of that waterway. Should it change hands later on.
All right, anyone else? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion to support, recommend support, I mean? Huh, okay, all righty. So the motion fails then, okay. Do we have another motion?
You should call just all those opposed, just so people can clearly indicate that they are.
All right, all those opposed? Okay, so, sorry, can you raise your hands again for those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. And a favor again? Randy, okay. Right, motion fails.
New motion.
All right.
Just forward without comments.
Forward without comments to the ALC.
As a recommendation to council.
I second that.
All right, all in favor?
Just for clarity, what are we recommending?
Well,
Just basically no comment? So does that mean
Yeah.
we support it or we don't, or we are just stepping back?
We're splitting council.
yeah, how do we, help me out here? What does this mean? Because that is one of the options that staff outlined in the last slide, that this committee could provide no comment. So what is that, how does that go forward to council from here?
So this might be one of those instances where committee
So-
would actually want to chat a little bit before you move to
Okay.
how everyone
With no
actually
comments.
feels. You can go forward and put this to council and say, we
With no
didn't resolve
comment.
it in committee and you guys can decide on it now, which is basically what that motion does.
Yeah,
Or the committee, because you're an advisory committee, it's like, well, we had a feeling on it, this is where we were leaning. Up to you as a committee what you want to do, but you may want to discuss kind of different feelings around the table and online, so.
well, and I think staff are taking notes of the comments, right? And that will be incorporated into the report
Absolutely.
to council. So, yeah, and one of your options is forward the application to recommend to council. Oh, yeah, forward the application to ALC with no comments. Forward the application with no support, or sorry, with support, with changes. Forward the application with support as presented.
Maybe if I could jump in, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
The no comment to me would say that you're not sure if there's a benefit to agriculture or not, and you're actually asking the ALC to adjudicate the application. Unfortunately, as a staff member, I likely won't be able to bring forward that recommendation on my own. We'll utilize our policy position, our policy documents to create a position for council, and council will take staff's position and your position and make an adjudication on how that will go forward to the ALC. But the no comment is you're a bit up in the air and you're basically allowing their professionals at the ALC to make the determination.
But our discussion here would be on record.
Absolutely, yeah. Your key concerns that you've discussed here at the table will be summarized in staff's report to council, and that will be part of council's decision-making process at that time.
Okay, I think that's fair.
And they also do identify if, I believe, if I recall correctly, how many were in favor and how many were opposed, if it was split, whatever. So,
So we understand that Mr. Dreer moved that motion with no comment. Was there a seconder on that?
yes, I think you seconded, didn't you, Spencer? Yeah. All right. Call the question on that motion. All in favor? Any opposed? One opposed? All right, thank you. Motion's carried. All right, I think that was the end of it, right? Correct? What's that? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that meant your comments in regards to the uh-oh. Chair messed up, sorry. He said the clerk wanted to make an announcement, and I thought he was that was in regards to commenting on the delegations anyways. Got that wrong. Sorry, Mr. Joseph.
Just something
Please go
very quick
ahead.
for members, for all of our advisory committees, you know that we send you out an invite for the meeting and then we attach the agenda to it. It's very common now when people are responding to emails, they don't send a response just because not to fill up people's inboxes. When we send you a meeting invite, please respond to us because it helps us know who's come to the meeting. So we don't just show up and there's no quorum. So for that one, if you could just respond, please send us a response for the meeting. We just really appreciate it.
We need to know if you have a quorum or not. So. Awesome. All right, thank you, everyone. And, we need a motion to adjourn. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Spencer, do we have a seconder? By Alex, all in favor? None opposed, motion's carried. Thank you for your time, everyone. Appreciate it.